Well, first of all, I think that we're human beings as a species. We're a living organism. And the age of selfish individuality has to end because we cannot sustain as a species if everybody is out for themselves. All species cooperate and they commune. And so when you get a group of people together and they are of a similar intent or a similar energy, we are really wired to nurture and take care of one another. And that is what I call social coherence. And it's very indivisible when people have that kind of intent and strength. So yeah, we've seen that 70% of the time, most people are living by the hormones of stress. And stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance. So stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis. Stress response pretty much is what the body innately does to return itself back to order. And so we have different types of stress. We have physical stress like injuries, accidents, traumas. We have chemical stress like viruses, bacteria, hangovers, blood sugar levels, toxins in food. And we have emotional stress, which is traffic jams, internet connections, second mortgages, parenting, family tragedies. And all of those different environmental signals really begin to knock us out of balance. And all organisms in nature can tolerate short-term stress. When there's an emergency, we have three options: we either run, fight, or hide. And that system of emergency, of survival, is designed for the short term. But most people that have any type of stress end up with every stress ending up as psychological or emotional stress. So the arousal of the chemicals when you react to some threat or danger in your outer environment gives the brain and body a jolt or an arousal of energy. And in time, people start to look for or become attached to or addicted to that rush of adrenaline. So they begin to use the people and conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. And in a sense, they become addicted to the life they don't even like. So then what's the significance of that? Well, it's really simple. If you turn on the stress response and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for disease, because no organism can live in emergency mode for an extended period of time. So from a theoretical standpoint, if all of your attention and energy and you're mobilizing all this energy for some threat in your outer environment, there's no energy in your inner environment for growth and repair. So the immune system becomes compromised and becomes compromised dramatically. So all of the conditions that we see, many of the conditions in chronic health, those conditions are immune-mediated conditions, from cancer to rheumatoid arthritis to MS, to food allergies, to sensitivities, all the way down the line. And so when a person then begins to say, okay, I may not be able to control everything in my outer world, but I certainly can self-regulate and begin to control what's going on in my inner world. And it's by the same means, we've done an experiment where we took a group of people and said, okay, let's have you trade anger, fear, frustration, judgment, hatred, sadness, pain, suffering, depression, anxiety, whatever, competition, for gratitude, appreciation, love, and a joy for existence. And we gave them opportunities for 10 minutes a day for 2 or 3 times a day for 4 days. And we measured their cortisol levels when they started the process. And we measured a chemical called IgA, immunoglobulin A. It is your primary defense against bacteria and viruses. It is the body's natural flu shot. In fact, if you read the research, it's actually better than a flu shot. So then we put them through those 4 days, and then we measured their changes just by trading those emotional states. At the end of 4 days, their cortisol levels went down about 20%, and their IgA levels went up 50%. So 50% change in your autoimmune response just by self-regulating with an elevated emotion. Now, the emotional signature of gratitude is interesting, because gratitude means you're receiving something. You've just received something. Something is happening to you, or something has already happened to you, and it makes you feel good. So you feel it and you say, thank you. So its signature means something has already happened. So if your body is the unconscious mind and you begin to feel gratitude, then you're going to feel like all your dreams, all the things you want have already happened. And you're going to move from the state of separation and lack. That's that signature that says, I'm here and you're there, and if you look different than me, then it's going to get worse. And the hormones of stress actually endorse the senses, and we become materialists, so we experience more separation. So we experience not only separation from people and objects and things, but separation from me and my future dreams. We feel like we have to wait for our dreams to occur in order for us to feel gratitude. Then I'll feel gratitude when I get my new relationship, when I get my new job, when I get my new career. So the body spends most of its time polarized in lack. So then when a person starts to feel gratitude, their body eases and it says, I've already received my future. It's already happened. And I feel more whole and less separate from it. And so we tend to stress more or less. We tend to no longer force or control outcomes in our life, because if you're connected to the emotion of how your future would feel, then you wouldn't be rushing anywhere to get anywhere. You would feel like you already have it. So the immune system then begins to dial up. It begins to repair. And so what happens is pain dials down, inflammation dials down, immune function goes way up, and a host of different biological markers change. So then it sounds easy theoretically, but it's a habit. And we've done the measurements to show that people can actually sustain these states for an extended period of time. And so then when they break the addiction to those emotions, that's the tough part about change, because the moment you step out of the known familiar territory, which means that some people would rather feel guilt, and at least it's familiar to them and it's known, than take a chance in possibility, because they can't predict what's going to happen if they leave the known. So it turns out that if you give people the proper tools, and you understand this, it's a formula. It's an absolute formula, and it's not a difficult formula. We're actually wired to do this. We're naturally wired to do this, but it takes us from breaking all the addictions from all the people and objects and things and problems in our life long enough to begin to say, okay, I'm out of balance here, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to get back in balance. Now, the moment you decide to do something differently, you're going to feel uncomfortable because you're leaving that known territory. So most people once they feel that discomfort, they return back to the familiar world and they say, this feels right. Well, no, that feels familiar. So then when people start to disentangle from the emotional addictions and the programs that they live by unconsciously, it takes a Herculean effort to begin to do that. But the side effect of that is joy, because the body is no longer believing it's living in the same past traumatic situations over and over again. So the stronger the emotion we feel from events in our life that occur, the more altered we feel inside of us emotionally. The more altered we feel inside of us emotionally, the greater the threshold, the more we pay attention to the cause, and the brain takes a snapshot. And that's called a memory. So then people think neurologically within the experiences, neurologically, and they feel chemically within the boundaries of those emotions. And how you think and how you feel is your state of being. So most people's entire state of being was in the past. So then the body then is believing it's living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because the body doesn't know the difference between the emotion from the real experience and the emotion that we're living by every single day. So it turns out when you trade that, all of a sudden you begin to downregulate certain genes and upregulate other genes, and you begin to see a change. You just got to go through, just like an addict that's been addicted to heroin or addicted to a substance, you have to go through that period of withdrawal. And that is the dissonance and disorder we see in the brain and heart. But if a person sticks with the formula, there's a reorganization, and that's called the healing. And it can happen in an instant. Getting there is the journey. And I think what's happening, to your point, when we first started out, is that more and more people we're in an age of information. And in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a priest. You don't need a rabbi. You don't need a governor. You don't need a teacher to gain information anymore. We have access to information. So the beauty behind that is people are taking their power back. And when you have a change in information, or you understand information, you have a greater level of awareness. And awareness is consciousness, and you can't have consciousness without energy. So this is a time in history where it's not enough to know. This is a time in history to know how, and people are ready to learn how. And it's the 100th monkey, or the 4-minute mile. It's starting to happen. And now everybody's seeing it happening, and now the belief about it is enhanced. And now we don't have to rely on so many things outside of us, an exogenous substance to change how we feel inside of us. People are beginning to learn how to self-regulate and do it without anything external to them. And that's a threat to pharmaceutical companies. As you know, you have a fabulous magazine, The Doctors Don't Tell You. And you've been on the front lines with this for a long enough period of time. And that's a threat to the pharmaceutical companies and to the medical model. But all of those models are breaking down because of information. And this is a great time to be alive.